so many people trying to be social activists through aggressive means.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that that's the wrong way.
Right.
That the way to true social activism is to be more virtuous than the person next to you, and to help to inspire them to virtue.
Right, because most of what's not virtue has to do with egoistic tendencies of selfishness. So virtually all what's commonly called evil is selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as I still have selfish qualities, I'm still a part of that same aspect of things that I want to change. So the easiest thing for me to change is those qualities in me. Not that I can't be helpful toward a cause, but if I ignore those selfish tendencies in me and work toward a cause, then I'm not attacking what's closest to me.
We're talking about some ideas that basically do with a certain type of inner peace and tranquility.
Mm-hmm.
But George Gurdjieff was quite a character. I mean, this guy was constantly getting shot, hitting his car into a tree. He was a heavy drinker, vodka, etc. But yet he attracted this huge nucleus of people to him, intellectuals, aristocrats. How would you? It seems that he lived his life in a way that is almost antithetical to the way most people portray the work.
Sure.
Can you just talk about that?
Sure. One of the branches of Sufism that I believe he studied with is called the way of blame.
Mm-hmm.
In Sufism terms, is the Melamet path. And in that path, one became free of the coarser aspects of the material world by subjecting oneself to what people would consider blameworthy.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if in many paths one works to manifest in holy ways, but if you manifest in ordinary ways, then somehow you're less subject to a certain kind of egoism that one gets when they're manifesting as holy. The typical form is self-righteousness, and various religious people and people of other spiritual paths that work in this kind of sanctimonious ways fall into that category. And I'm not saying this is criticism, but we see over history various kinds of wars and persecutions and burnings at the stake, all based on this kind of superiority.
Who can be the most holy?
Right. So the way of blame, basically, by appearing to not be holy, to be basically an ordinary idiot, and in some ways antithetical to what one would term as a spiritual person, frees both oneself of any feeling of sanctimony, and it also it makes it harder for the student that isn't willing to look at things with open eyes. It acts as a sift to sift through those who aren't serious.
I had reminds me of a Zen phrase that Alan Watts used to like to teach too, and the phrase is something like "goody goodies are thieves of virtue."
Right. So, yeah. The other aspect is by allowing everything of the world to have be part of my spirituality, whether it be alcohol, not to the point of alcoholism or whatever it is using what's everything becomes part of my spirituality. It's not denying anything. It's an inclusive path. Everything is essentially my teacher.
For Gurdjieff's style of teaching, as he attracted these phenomenal intellects, Ouspensky and Nicole, and I read one biographer say about him that his group seemed to be divided by a common cause. That the tangents seem to go from one direction or another. And indeed, it seems to me that there's a very diverse today interpretation of Gurdjieff that has things to do with lineage,
Sure.
The direction of the student that came down. And it seems that there is a sort of a division or a dichotomy in certain aspects of the Gurdjieff organization, if you can call it that.
Right.
How would you respond to that?
Well, this is something that concerned Gurdjieff while he was still alive, and in particularly he writes about it in his third series of seeing that some groups only concentrate on self-observation, some on movements, some on the astral body, and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
But that just by concentrating on one aspect of things, he saw various of these groups becoming what he called candidates for the lunatic asylum.
Yeah.
Because if you just do one aspect of the teaching, there isn't the balance that he was after. So he was very disappointed with this tendency, and it often happened.